This conference will now be recorded.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the May 16th, 2019 meeting of the Data Center Facility Group. We have a fairly full agenda, so we'll go ahead and get started. So, opening.
This is Jake Ring. Sorry to be late.
Oh, you're good. You're good. You're right on time, and I appreciate you
I
joining.
dialed into the wrong. I guess I dialed into the wrong one. I guess it was dialing into the old MDC one. So my apologies.
You're quite all right. Okay, so for the agenda, we'll get some updates from OCP. We'll talk to Lucas Cordholm, Formatic, regarding the status of the Critical Facility Operations Framework. He has some questions regarding that I think is good for this group to discuss. We have Jake Ring from Giga Data Centers to discuss them as a Colo SP and their site as part of the OCP Ready program. Then we have a question in the modular data center group regarding product submissions and some of the requirements associated with that. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how normally OCP products were recognized or the requirements given to them, whereas larger facility products may be a little bit different. So we'll go ahead and talk through that. And then if time allows, Mark Dancy and I worked up a process flow chart for the OCP Ready program that should be very useful for Colo SP's trying to go through the process. So as far as events coming up, we have the regional summit in September in Amsterdam again. The call for participation is going out. I know that you guys have seen the reminders. We're now 10 days before the initial requirement. The initial submission is required. I've gotten a few notes from some people, ideas about their submissions. If you guys have any questions or want to understand if it's relevant to the community, if it's technical enough in nature, go ahead and reach out to myself or Rob Bunger, and we can have that discussion. So a few days, and then through the summer we'll be covering them and try to curate a good sort of schedule for the engineering workshops at the regional summit. So I'm looking forward to it, and I think we're growing and evolving and sort of focusing. So I expect us to have a good showing as well as a good schedule. So actually, I think Michael had to drop off. So I think that's the biggest announcement from OCP is, in terms of relevance, is a call for participation for that. If you all are interested in any of the events that OCP is going to support or be active in, if you visit the OCP website, they have an events calendar that they note all of those. So let's go ahead and open it up to Lucas. If you can give us a breakdown of where we are at, as well as if you could discuss sort of the questions that your leaders at Corematic had regarding the sustainability and the integration into OCP as a best practice.
Okay, thank you, Brevin. With me, I have my colleague Göran Svensson as well. Göran is the colleague who is responsible for the framework document, if I call it that, or the contents of the document. So we're working together on this. And we wanted to make sure that we have some redundancy on these calls. But anyway, so the short story is that we are working on making sure we are going through the framework to make sure that it's not tailor-made for Chromatic, making sure that it's useful for anyone, and using neutral terminology with supplier and customer and site owner rather than Chromatic, for example. In some places we found that. And we plan to have the first draft, which is, let's call it, it's a final draft, I would say, actually. Of course, open for feedback, but it's not like an early draft within the OCP template and the version number and all that. So that will be shared in June with OCP for the review and approval or changes. And we also have 2 case studies that we have on the framework being used with customers, and have also sent in a suggested presentation for the regional summit. And you said that we could ask questions there, and my question was just, was it enough to sort of file an interest and explain what it was, or do we need to produce the draft presentation or workshop as well, the contents, already before end of May?
I'm not sure that we may be able to answer that right here on this call. We may have to take it offline to the Compute Foundation and sort of outline some of those items.
All right. Yeah. No. So let's pause that there. But anyway, we've sent in a suggested sort of topic to present this, as we discussed with Brevin and Robert and the others previously, to have that kind of as a plan for, let's call it a launch plan for the framework there. So we are comfortable that we are on track. We haven't seen any specific issues. Today we actually have certified 5 more people in the framework here, and we plan to do that with another 5 people next week. So it's moving forward. So in total, there will be almost 60 people that have gone through training and certification of this. When it comes to our 2 questions, it's the sustainability of the document. So we wanted to understand in which way this OCP document, if I call it that, how that will be refreshed and updated, the process for that. The concern being that we don't want to put something out there and then it slowly starts to just age without any involvement, because the point of putting it out here is to get the best ideas in from other organizations and continuously improve this. But of course, as Brevin has pointed out before, that it would have to be within a controlled version handling of OCP. So you might have an official version 1.3, and then you have the evolving, moving mass, and the licensing will be free, so people can make their own, organizations can make their own versions. But then OCP decides to launch an official version 1.4, for example, because of it's been improved enough to sort of merit a change. And so the principle and the idea is absolutely good and clear, but how this works in practice is less clear to us. That's one bullet. The other bullet, yeah, let's stay with that one then. Yeah.
Yeah, so I have an opinion or comment on that. With regards to sort of the sustainability of documents, is whether they are just best practices or codes and standards and such, a periodic review, as well as a committee, or and also including ongoing sort of submission suggestions. I think you have to have all of that really combined in order to gain that sort of sustainability. So I think from sort of the champions, Corematic, your involvement moving forward as part of this document, championing it, is great. Having the community that supports it. You have the Open Compute community. You have all of us. I think that World wants to, set what sort of periodic review was needed in order to get those minor revisions, and then also, the major revision publication as it evolves to a different point. And then also try to set up some sort of suggestion and or discussion board that allowed us to continually bring in those suggestions or updates from that knowledge base, that those community members. So I think we have most of it covered. I think it's just defining it and then executing on it.
Okay. Does that mean that you have these kind of functions in place for other parts of the OCP publications, or would this be set up from scratch or structured from scratch? We will, of course, continue to champion this. Yes, so we will be an active part of it. But is this already in place, or would we have to develop this with you as a first thing, sort of?
John and Rob Bunger, you can provide input into this as well, but I would think that it could echo or mimic off of what we already have in terms of our standards and product. I shouldn't say product, our specs and how we organize those. It shouldn't be much different than that. Do you have any comments, Rob?
Yeah. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, I mean, this is. I wouldn't, I definitely wouldn't say there's a well-established existing process to make sure everything is reviewed and updated and things like that. So it's an excellent question, and something that our project can easily just create a very simple way to kind of circle back. We can set a date, have sort of a committee, like Brevin said, or something, kind of review it. Okay, needs updating. Do an update process and go. So, I think it's just up to us to, put that process in place and make it happen.
Okay, good. Could I then suggest that we could do this offline, but if you could share the links with, or share the links or the documents with, for how it's organized for the others, we could take that and bring a suggested alignment for this, unless you want to do it. I mean, we're happy to do it since we're working on the document anyway, but if you, depends on who you want to do it, but I think we need to make then a sort of pinpoint where we would say committee needed and then leave the names open for the committee members, because who should be there, but just having that structure.
Yeah. I'll take the action to see if another project has done this in a nice, clean way. But my guess is, if we say, hey, this needs to be reviewed on an annual basis, a year from now, how do we make sure we remember to do that? Is it something like we put an expiration date on the wiki or something? I'm sure there should be a super simple way to do it. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, good.
So
all right,
you look into what you have and share that with us then. So
we'll do. Yep.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
Yeah.
If I may just comment, it's Nigel here. Rob and Brevin, what we do on one of the other working subgroups is we have a document which is linked in the wiki, and it's a document that's got an overview of all the material with inputs, including archived requests for changes, etc. into it. Now I'm happy to send through a list of that document for consideration. I'll send it through to Brevin and Rob if you like.
Yeah, that'd
Very
be good. Thanks.
Yeah, that sounds excellent. Yeah, so we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Perfect. Thank you. So that was actually our first point, and this sounds like a very practical and good way forward. And the second question was that when Chromatic and OCP started the dialogue on sharing the framework, We understand that this will not be part of the OCP Ready program, of course, because it's more of a best practice or recommendation guideline rather than a requirement. But there was a discussion whether this could be something that still is sort of recommended when doing these, because a lot of this is self-assessment checklists and things like that. And if this was part of that, saying this is not a requirement, but you should consider having some sort of a, you need to have a management and operations thingy in place anyway. And this is the one that is the guideline or recommendation from OCP. So I'm intentionally a bit hazy here because I don't know the rules and the thinking around OCP, but is there any way of making the OCP Ready program to kind of point towards this? Because there is a lot of focus on the hardware and the drawings, if I put it that simply way.
Sure.
But also on energy management and heat reuse and these things, and that's where these things tie together quite well.
Yeah. I'll let Mark, since you're sort of the champion around the guidelines for deploying OCP racks, could you comment on the potential for sort of inclusion here?
Yeah, it's a good point that's been raised. Yeah, at the moment we don't have anything within the checklist that asks about how they operate their data center and whether they use any standard procedures. But I think it could be something we can put in the considerations. Probably not a must-have, but certainly a consideration towards the lower end of the checklist, which would be really useful for prospective tenants to have that information alongside everything else within that checklist. I think it's all good. It's all good information that just shows potential customers that they're doing the right thing, that they're following best practice, and I think we should consider adding it to the lower section of the checklist.
I think that probably reminds us that we need to update that document. We need to perform the same sort of sustainability on that
yes.
guideline.
Peer review.
Exactly, peer review, because we are, coming with OpenRack v3, integrating that, plus, clean up and improve and evolve it. So, if we're talking about a checklist of things and suggestions that need to be added, we can go ahead and put that on as its point of discussion for that sustainability. So I'm actually going to put a action item for myself to go ahead and schedule some sort of an engineering workshop for reviewing the guidelines, and then we can put that in there. So thank you, Lucas, and your team for highlighting some other improvements that we can make here.
Yeah, thank you. But these were the 2 points we had, and it sounds fantastic. And the idea for us is to, if the suggested presentation is approved for the regional summit, it would be to present the framework and the sort of, let's call it the purpose and context, and then focus on 1 or 2 customer cases or use cases showing how it's being used and the benefits of it. I think that's the most hands-on and most interesting to an audience.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I think so, very much so, because what we're going to want to do is, same with product sales and advertising. I mean, you providing that case study, that understanding of it, and being able to get it out to the community, we can then draw them in, and we can get that interest, and then they can see the benefit of it and adopt it. And if we're talking about, supporting adoption of whatever method or product or anything that then supports the OCP tenants,
yeah,
we might as well leverage that. So you guys said you submitted or you were going, you were
Yeah,
prepared to submit.
there was an email. There was an email sent out with a link, basically saying, "Please propose, suggest topics," something like that. So I filled that out. It was an online form. It was quite limited. So basically, my contact details, and I referenced this group and Brevin and the others, just saying we have discussed this and propose. But there wasn't anything to attach a file or anything. That's why I just want to check that there were no expectations at this stage. I think it's probably just a high-level sorting right now.
Yep, you're fine. It is pure abstract. It's just a high level of understanding. So we will discuss. I think that's closing down in 10 days, and I'm glad you were able to put that in there. And we'll be in contact after that review period is done. So
Yep.
thank you for that.
Okay, thank you. I don't think we should spend more time on this in this meeting now, on the framework, I mean.
Lucas, quick point.
Yeah.
Do you know of the BICSI, the new BICSI standard that's been
Yes.
that's been produced?
Absolutely, and not to forget the EN 5600. I would say that's the one of the standards that have been developing quite a lot as well. But yes, absolutely. So it's
Okay.
so what we made sure is to try and not let's say not base it on or refer directly to the other standards, but rather align it with, so there's no conflict. I would say it fits well with that, and that's why we're also humbled with the as you said, we don't expect this to be a mandate on the OCP ready or anything like that, but it's recommended to have some sort of management and operations, and OCP has this one. If they use something else, that's good, but they need to make sure that it helps to actually leverage the energy efficiency opportunities that the technology allows, and these kind of things, and the risk minimization and cost reductions, of course.
Okay, that's great to hear you aligning it, because we've done a similar thing with the co-location facility guidelines document. We've aligned ourselves with the BICSI 002 as well. So yeah.
Are you when you say that reference, Mark? Are you referencing 002?
Well, the new revision of BICSI 002 is going to have reference to OCP.
Yep.
The OCP requirements within it. So we've got a reference back the other way. Potentially, maybe in the next BICSI data set of operations, we'll be able to reference back to OCP as well in the future. But that's further on and down the line. But yeah, it's great to hear that we're aligning ourselves between the different standards bodies and best practice bodies.
Let me just say, I see the notes being taken there. So it's EN 50600. It's my pronunciation that's poor. Yeah, thank you.
5600 instead of 5600.
Yeah.
My bad. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Jake.
Howdy.
Good morning. Are you able to share your screen and your presentation?
Yes.
Okay, let me make you the organizer or presenter. Okay. You should have the ability. There you go.
Great. Okay. So hopefully you can see my screen.
Yeah, we can certainly see it. It's very good.
All right, great. So let me go back just to give a little bit of a breakdown. I can set this as a, can you see my screen still? If I go into presentation mode? Okay, great. Giga Data Centers is a new data center company. We'd previously been building turnkey data centers for a number of different organizations, and back in late 2017, decided to get into the co-location market ourselves. The business was founded by myself. My previous experience is that I was the head of product marketing and management with Liebert Corporation back in the mid 90s through 2000, and then got into private equity, and then started with GE and was the chief marketing officer with GE. And then my partners, Daniel Robbins and James Longacre, had been working at Microsoft under Christian Bellotti for a number of years before then going to work for Rackable Systems, and then getting into building turnkey data centers themselves after HP bought the combined Silicon Graphics Rackable business, and didn't need to have their own modular system because they had their EcoPod. So we got together, started building some additional data centers for FedGov, and then decided to get into the colocation market.